We have got some news involving the Ukrainian and Russian war, or as Russia likes to call it, their 3-day special operation that is getting close to the 4-year mark because it's been going on 3 years now. So,
Alright, good evening folks, it's Enforcer Matt and welcome back to another short war video, and today it's getting absolutely crazy between the United States and Russia, and things are escalating very.
Oh yeah, Trump, he reduced the 50 days to 2 weeks now, telling Vladimir Putin to come to the table and sue for peace. Now, the whole point of this show of force, in as silly as it is to make Russia realize that once those 16 Patriot systems are sent to Ukraine, the jig is up. It's over. Because if 2 Patriot systems can render the Air Force of Russia so inept and incapable, and we're talking 50-plus-year-old systems, then what's going to happen when we add 16 more? I mean, the sheer culpability for Ukraine here is, once we get those Patriot systems, Russia is in mega trouble. They're not going to get any air defense out there. Nothing. And they're barely getting by with what they got. So, we'll see what happens.
Very quickly, and starting off with our biggest news of the day, a Russian drone has invaded the Lithuanian airspace this morning near the capital.
Okay, to be clear, invaded is a drastic statement. There were 2 videos of drones, so don't take invaded. That is a really drastic thing to say. They were not invaded. They crossed their airspace and violated that airspace. That's it. 1 drone crashed. I don't know what happened to the other. But it is a provocation from Russia. Now, I find it interesting that Russia will go over Lithuania with a drone. It'll go over Ukraine with a bunch of them. But it's too much of a pussy to go over Poland. Like, they are avoiding Poland like the plague. And there's a reason for that, our little European Texas.
Capital of Vilnius, causing Lithuania to declare an emergency, and not only has Lithuania's territory been violated, but now Estonia has announced a Russian vessel also violated its maritime borders and has now summoned the Russian ambassador to protest. Meanwhile,
is Russia creating provocation? Yes, by doing this. It's also a possibility they have this thing called the red line, where Russia will continually just try to keep pushing, see how far they can go. Because there's a main reason why they went through Lithuania from Belarus. They want to try to get up and behind Ukraine. That's what they're trying to see. They're trying to see, will Lithuania stop us from getting up and behind Ukraine? But the problem is, the border where it comes along, where they can try to get behind, is along Poland. And Poland, nah. They ain't going to tolerate jack diddly squat from Russia doing something like that. So, at the moment we see any kind of violation of the airspace by Russia into Poland and violating Poland's sovereignty, oh boy, Poland's gonna just foam at the mouth. They are a dog staring at a treat, drooling at the mouth, just waiting, because that's how badly they want to go after Russia. They spent $15 billion to purchase equipment from Germany, the UK, the United States, and South Korea, and some equipment from Japan, to arm up under the pretext of Russian aggression along their border. And they're not wrong. They have every right to. Poland got ran over in 2 world wars. If you're a country that has been bowled over that many times in a 100-year period, and if you go back even a few 100 years before that, Russia was doing stuff to them, so was Germany. They were always stuck on a 2-front war. They have had enough. Poland has literally stated, we are a speed bump with teeth. They're no longer going to sit on the sidelines. They're no longer going to deal with this crap. That's why they spent so much money on arming themselves up, and probably are the most heavily armored and equipped country in all of the European Union and member of NATO. They bought a lot, and they're just trying to protect themselves, and I don't blame them. I do not blame Poland one bit. When you are a country that has been bowled over in 2 world wars, continuously lost territory, been constantly bullied, and you just like, you know what? I'm a member of NATO. I've got funds that I have never spent, and I've got the United States and the UK and Germany and South Korea. Especially South Korea and the United States is where they spent the most money on Abrams tanks, air defense systems, the F-35 program, and purchasing a lot of South Korea's radar systems and tanks. They're not going to sit back and allow it anymore. They're just not. And you can hardly blame a country who's been that beaten up for not finally deciding to go, oh, yeah, no more. Yeah, we're done. We're done.
Meanwhile, the US president has announced he will no longer wait for Putin to end the Ukraine war and has given Putin a 10-day ultimatum or else, and this has caused the Russian stock market to plummet, and now Dmitry Medvedev is directly threatening the United States.
A lot of people think Trump is an idiot sometimes, and he is, but there are times he is a genius. He knows what certain actions are going to hit Russia and hurt them the most. And Putin will continually act like nothing's wrong, but the interior is probably pretty bad. Now, I don't live in Russia, so I don't know the state of what they're seeing, what they're viewing, what's going on. But I will tell you this, just from the outside looking in, it's not looking good. It isn't. Russia is in a difficult spot. Putin, for me, should just pull out. Just stop with this war, stop sacrificing your citizens, and just pull out.
In response, as tensions boil over, and we also have news of a possible ceasefire between Thailand and Cambodia, and also news about
Thailand and Cambodia. I heard about that, some small war going on up there, or something happened. I mean, Pakistan and India went at it and blew their jets out of the sky. Some countries are doing a little bit more than just redlining or probing. They're going straight in.
Iran's nuclear program. But today, the news is really popping off in Ukraine heavily, and things are escalating dramatically, and it looks like the stage is being set for a very large escalation. But moving into our first post here, this one goes to War Translated, and we can see right here that LRT reports that a drone of unknown type entered Lithuanian airspace, likely from Belarus, and it was spotted near Vilnius at the altitude of around 200 meters, and this is the second such incident in July, and in the previous case, the drone was identified as a Russian Geran drone. So this is the second time it's happened in a month, which makes us less likely that it was an accident. So let's take a look.
Well, it's definitely not. Russia does this all the time. They probe, they poke, they see how far they can take it, and their goal is to get another country to do something back to them. So they have just cause. But when they're the ones violating the airspace, the just cause was them doing it and the other country reacting. So, to put things in perspective, from what I can tell, Russia's just probing. They're probing and poking, see how far they can go. I believe they want a back area into Ukraine. I think that's what they want. They know they can't get it along Belarus because Poland is way, way too trigger happy right now. And they know if they try to find a way in from behind, it's just, Poland's not going to tolerate it. And even if they do come in from the side of Belarus, it won't make a difference because they're still being forced to fight on a line where Ukraine's well familiar and knows that they have the potential for invading. So the only obvious area that Russia can strike from that they're hoping is to go along Lithuania, try to find an opening along the border, and they're trying to poke and prod to see where and when they can get through in order to strike. They want a back entrance into Ukraine. There's no question. And the only way is along Poland's border. And that's definitely not going to happen.
Look at our footage here and see the drone literally flying right over near the capital of Lithuania, right near this airspace. Let's take a look. So there you see it. There's that drone.
Every time I hear these drones, they sound like really long farts that just keep going.
flying right there over Lithuanian airspace. And once again, this is right outside the capital of Vilnius. So this is not some random airspace. This is literally right outside of Lithuania's capital, and there's another drone flying over right there that is obviously an enemy drone right in their territory. The second time it's happened this month, and that is very disturbing to see once again, because in my opinion, it looks like Russia might be probing the Lithuanian airspace defenses and seeing what the response will be to an incursion just like this one. So very disturbing footage once again, and the second time it's happened.
Second time it's happened. I think there's 3. Isn't there? Or was it just the 2? Might be.
In just a month. But moving on to our next post here, this one goes to Anton Jeroshenko, and we also have another angle of this drone coming in and flying right over near Vilnius, Lithuania. And this photo right here, this video actually, is showing us apparently a resident right near the capital filming this from either his driveway or a sidewalk, just showing you how close this was to civilians and how dangerous this situation truly was. So let's take a look. So there it goes right there, this guy filming from his driveway.
It's not that dangerous unless Russia's planning to drop a bomb somewhere. The idea that they're probing is true, but I'm not sure to what end, because I still think they're just trying to find a backyard into Ukraine. And they know they can't get along there because Poland's going to blow them out of the sky. They've already done that once.
And you hear the guy's clearly shocked. He was not expecting to see a Russian drone flying over a NATO country like this, and nobody really was. But as you can see in this video right here, there was actually right there in the very end part of the video, you can see there's a street lamp, you can see the trees in the background, and clearly this guy's standing in a populated area. This is not some random place out in a farm field or something. This is right here on the outskirts of Vilnius. So absolutely insane to see that. This drone right here, if it's truly off course, apparently made no effort to course correct whatsoever. So not good, and there's more evidence of it flying right over and being filmed by civilians just going about their daily business. So moving on to our next post here, this one goes to Polymarket Intel, and we also see here that Darius Buta, a spokesperson for Lithuania's National Crisis Management Center, stated that he's trying to currently determine its current location of the drone and where it might have fallen. So right now, information about where the drone actually crashed is very sparse, but it sounds like from the statement here from the spokesperson from Lithuania that the drone did indeed crash somewhere outside of Vilnius, and of course, we're not really sure how it ended up that way, nor how did it get there. Nobody's really sure about much of anything right now, but the one thing is clear though, the drone, a Russian drone, apparently flying through Belarusian airspace, entered into a NATO country's airspace for the second time in a month, and of course, that is an incident which can't just be ignored. So very serious once again. But moving into our next post here, this one goes to Nexta, and not only is Lithuania having a problem this morning with Russia, but now Estonia is also having a problem as well, this time involving a Russian ship violating a maritime border. And we can see right here, Estonia delivers a formal protest note to Russia over a border violation, and Estonia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs summoned the Russian ambassador to express an official protest and hand over a diplomatic note, and the reason is because a Russian border patrol vessel violated Estonia's maritime border. So there is the vessel right here in this photo. Now, one thing you might be noticing.
To be clear, I don't think this is anything special, just to me. Again, Russia redlining, trying to poke and prod to see what they'll do. But let's be clear, even if they're just violating the space, their goal is to try to see will they launch on them, so they have an excuse to do something. But Russia can't fight multiple fronts. They just don't have the equipment anymore, the numbers. They can't even push a few miles into Ukraine and keep it. So they're definitely not going to be threatening other countries at this point in time. It's just a lot of empty threats and a lot of, we're going to nuke you if you do this, we're going to nuke you if you do that, and they don't do it. Not to mention what we believe to be 5,000 active nuclear missiles potentially in Russia. Most likely you could knock that number in half, because based on reports, they've been maintaining the missiles, and they have not been maintaining the fuel. They've been putting water in their missiles, water in their nuclear missiles. China's been doing it too. Good Lord.
here is there is a pattern developing. All these drone incursions into NATO Baltic state airspace, that's very disturbing. Also, we're seeing here multiple different vessel violations of the maritime border as well, and it does seem like this is likely intentional to send a message to the Baltic states and try to intimidate them, because I really doubt that all these different instances are simply mere coincidence. It seems like a concerted effort, at least in my opinion, and that's only the logical conclusion that we can come from out of all this information. So that is very disturbing that, of course, they are doing this right now, and it comes at a time where the U.S. is currently ramping up the pressure on Vladimir Putin to end the war as well. But moving on to our next post here, this one's going to go to Null Reports, and also last night...
The problem with the Russian war is that they can't ramp up any more than they have. They're using standard World War II tactics that don't work in modernized warfare. They should have seen proof of that when the United States, the UK, and a bunch of NATO countries invaded Iraq. This doesn't work.
We did see that Russia launched a drone attack on Ukraine, and as a result of that, Poland had to scramble their fighter jets to make sure that none of these drones were going to go into Polish airspace, and apparently they scrambled a bunch of F-16s and sent them up to patrol around their airspace to make sure those drones wouldn't come in. And according to the Polish Armed Forces Operational Command, air defense and radar systems were placed on high alert, and also measures were taken to ensure the security in regions bordering the threat zone.
Poland, little European Texas.
So here is the post right here from the Polish.
Oh, and what makes them even more like little European Texas? They found oil in their country, and they're offering trade to the United States. In Texas, they're like, this little European Texas thing is starting to become more obvious.
Air Force, and you can see this is rather routine these days, but once again, just proving that these countries in NATO that border up to this area where the fighting is currently taking place with Ukraine are very concerned about their airspace integrity and also their border integrity, because it looks like Russia is starting to make a concerted effort to move toward violating NATO airspace. So not good. But moving on to our next post here, this one goes to Disclosed TV. And after all of that news we just heard, we have a bombshell report today out of the United States that the U.S. president has set a new deadline for Putin to 10 or 12 days from today, because the U.S. president says we just don't see any progress being made with the...
You're not going to. This is what Russia always does. It's what other countries that face off against NATO and the U.S. do. They will wait until the last second to come to the table. That's just what they do. And like I said, it's a constant deterrent situation where you redline and they keep pushing that red line further and further, and Russia's not going to stop until they're forced to stop. Because Putin, he does not care about the lives that are being lost. The idea that he does, he wouldn't have instigated this whole situation. Look, I'm not saying the West isn't responsible too. When they kept trying to westernize Ukraine, Russia and Putin felt like they were being threatened. So that escalated the situation further. So to show that they weren't going to tolerate it, they invaded. So one side did one thing, another side reacted, did another. And then now we have a almost 4 year long war going on.
The Russians and the United States negotiating to end the Ukraine war. So this is a major development, and this can't be understated. This is a very welcome change right now, because previously the deadline was about 50 days for Russia, and a lot of people argued that's going to give Russia plenty of time to hurt more civilians, and why are we giving them so much leeway when they could have ended the war before? But now we can see the president is backing off and changing it to the 10 or 12 day deadline, which is a much more, I guess you could say, effective and appropriate deadline, and that gives Russia some pressure there to respond quickly or let us know exactly where they stand without giving them time to hurt more civilians. So that is a very big change right there. But learning more about that change here in our next post, this one goes to Anton Gerashenko, and we did hear also from the U.S. president that he said that the U.S. is going to do secondary sanctions on Russia unless we make a deal, and we might make a deal, but the president isn't very sure about that, and Putin's got to make a deal based on common sense, and you'd think he'd want to make a deal, and we'll find out. So, of course, it looks like Putin is not really willing to make a deal because he's not...
Sanctions haven't worked so far in stopping it. They have worked in crippling their economy, but they're just not working in getting Putin to just come to the table. Because every time they've had a attempted peace negotiation, you get Russia violating the ceasefire or Russia putting outrageous demands into the documentation. And if not any one of those demands is met, They just walk out the room. It's happened 3 times now.
Not willing to talk in fairness, nor is he willing to talk to actually end the situation. So I would say the situation is pretty much wrapped up at this point. It looks like the 10 or 12 days is just one more effort to maybe see if there is some hope here, but I think the hope has pretty much faded away a long time ago when it comes to dealing with Putin. So we're seeing here the possibility of secondary sanctions, very massive sanctions on Russia, unless they make a deal by that 10-day deadline. So a very big change indeed. But as a result of that, we have seen some crazy responses coming out of Russia. Russia is not reacting good to that whatsoever. They're going off the rails right now, because we are hearing from Dmitry Medvedev, who's the lunatic that lives in Russia, that happens to be very close to Vladimir Putin. He is now publicly threatening the United States, and clicking on his post right here, this is what Medvedev said literally 10 minutes ago before I started making this video. Medvedev put out on Twitter that the US president is playing the ultimatum game with Russia, 50 days or 10, and he should remember 2 things. Russia isn't Israel or even Iran, and each new ultimatum is a threat and a step towards war, and not between Russia and Ukraine, but with his own country. They're directly threatening the United States with.
All right, so now we reach the crux. How do I view the United States versus Russia? If you take nuclear arms out of the picture, the United States beats Russia in every category. The only thing Russia has is size of country and the ability to hide in many places while we're busy destroying their stuff. I want to be clear. Russia does not have the capability to go toe-to-toe with the United States other than in nuclear arms. That's it. From every point that I've seen, every video for the last 3.5 years that I've been watching the news on this whole thing, Russia, once regarded as the world's second strongest army, they were also referred to as the second largest army with the most active soldiers and active personnel. But they were also referred to as the second strongest. But since the Ukraine war has started, it is clear Russia still thinks that they're in a World War II situation where meat shields, tons of bodies thrown at it, and heavy armaments and fire is what's going to win it. No, you are in modern warfare. Modern warfare is all about logistics, logistics, logistics. Logistics are going to be the thing that will determine the outcome of a war. How capable is your country at maintaining its personnel, maintaining its equipment, making sure those soldiers are well supplied across enemy lines when they're going out there? And as we have seen, Russia's logistics is completely corrupt and just broken. They don't have capable commanders, capable officers, completely untrained soldiers. And one thing Ukraine has over Russia: means and will. The will to survive and the means to do it. And Ukraine is fighting for survival. So what happens when you face a country that has both the will and the desire to survive? They're not going to back down. They're not going to quit. They're going to fight. And as we've seen, for a country like Russia, they have been completely and totally inept. I mean, for one thing, the first mistake I saw right when this whole war started was when Russia lined up its forces along the border. This isn't World War II. This is modern warfare. It's about precision strikes with stealth. Russia was like acting like they were the warriors of like honorable fighting by being on the front lines and saying, we're right here. Dude, you literally gave away your position. So there was no chance.
War, by the way, and he said don't go down a certain road of a previous politician. So Medvedev is off his rocker right now, and he is going berserk, and obviously he's very upset by this whole new deadline that's been set, and he is clearly going off the rails. And the reason why Medvedev's statement here is very crucial is because a lot of people speculate that Medvedev is basically Putin's anger translator, so the things that Putin is scared to say in the public, he sends out this crazy guy, Medvedev, to go say it instead. And in my opinion, this sounds very, very specific right here, and it sounds like something that Putin would be saying in private, but is probably scared to say in the public. So we might be hearing a major escalation from Putin's mouth directly very soon, but we are seeing that Medvedev is clearly going off the deep end. So with that, moving on to our next post here, this one goes to Nexta, and this might explain why Medvedev is so scared and freaking out right now. The Russian stock market
Again, every time Trump has announced new tariffs, sanctions, or anything, something in the economy gets affected. And this is just another prime example. As much of an idiot as Trump can be, there are times when he is the smartest man in the room. And he knows it. But that's only at times. It's not all the time. He gets like that. He's like that 99.9% and that 0.01 with the potential to, oh, okay, yeah, that'll work.
Today is tumbled by nearly 1% in total following the U.S. president's statements. And as you can see right here, look at that. I mean, that's a huge drop right there. It's a 1%, but a 1% right now for Russia, that is something they can't afford because they're already struggling in the gutter. And this right here is...
Oh, Russia's definitely struggling. When Ukraine launched the drone attacks directly into Moscow and hit infrastructure, electric, oil places, ammunition depots, they had to shut down the majority of the flights for tourism coming in and out of Moscow and other places across the country just to prevent potential citizens being harmed. Because Ukraine has been very precise with where they're trying to hit. Ukraine is trying to hit major infrastructure to slow down Russia's ability to produce equipment and utilize it. And the bottom line is, it's working. It's working. Their economy's getting hit. They've had no success. They've gone through countless generals, commanders. They've been unable to maintain ground after they take ground. And then they had that push by Ukraine several months ago where they literally took several hundred miles of territory from Russia. I don't think they kept it, but they did do it for over a month.
Going to literally the bedrock. So this is not good for the Russian economy, which is already struggling. So the bottom line is, it looks like before the secondary sanctions are even put on Russia, that they might already start having some major economic problems before that even comes around to taking place when the U.S. president finally does apply those sanctions. But moving on to our next post here, this one goes to Visioner. And also, we have seen a large fires broken out on the territory of a military unit in Nizhny Novgorod, Russia. And we do see here in the photos, there is a massive fire right there on this territory. I believe this is a training center. And you can see there is a huge fire right there. It looks like on maybe the training barracks or something like that. And you can see the soldiers standing out here on the asphalt. And there is some more over there. You can see the Russian crest symbol right there on the sign. And clearly that is the area of the training facility. But moving on here to our next post, we also got a video showing this on fire as well in this one, which goes to Military News Ukraine. So let's take a look at the video and see this place on fire, because we do see here that apparently the fire might spread based on what we're seeing. And we can see right here, this is the exact same area in Nizhny Novgorod where that military facility that we just saw in the photos is on fire. And clearly it's a treed and forested area. And there is the fire right over there. So this thing has the potential to spread. And right now we're seeing that right in the middle of Nizhny Novgorod right here in this video. So also more context showing you that thing on fire. But moving on to our next post here, we've gotten some more big news that Ukraine has apparently taken another village in the Sumy region, this time in the village of Kondrativka. And according to updated information, an entire Russian company was destroyed in the encirclement set up by the Ukrainian forces in that city or that village. 90 were apparently eliminated, 5 were wounded, and 5 seriously wounded. And we do have a video here showing the Ukrainian flag being raised over this area in Sumy as the Russians are on their back channel saying that the situation is getting dire for their forces in this region. So let's take a look. So there you can see it. There's the Ukrainian flag right there on the side of that radio post. We're going to look at it one more time. There it is right there. And this is in the Sumy region. Of course, where the Russians are having a little bit of difficulty right now and getting pushed back by the Ukrainians, as we can see that the village has been retaken by the Ukrainian forces. So very good news to see on that front, and also more evidence the Russians are not winning on the battlefield either. Also, while they're struggling economically and also struggling with the new U.S. ultimatum that has been thrown their direction. So not a good day for Russia. But moving on to our next post here, this one goes to Clash Report. And also, it's an even worse day for Russia, because today we have seen a massive cyber attack has paralyzed Russia's biggest airline, Aeroflot. All systems are down, the airports are in chaos, and the staff can't even refuel the planes. And there's roughly 7,000 servers destroyed and 20 terabytes of data stolen, and the hackers say they'll start leaking the data soon, and no group has claimed responsibility yet, but some suspect Ukrainian-linked hackers, and I would tend to believe that's probably a very likely answer.
Yeah, that probably is, but we don't know yet. Just speculation. However, that is hefty. Like I said, you are not in World War II, Russia. You're not. This is modern day warfare. It is all about logistics, and then the other part is intel. And intel and logistics are going to win the war. I mean, part of the reason why we won World War II was because of the US's ability to produce equipment and supply soldiers, logistics, something the US is very good at, the United Nations' ability to produce intel. That is something the UK has always been great at. I said United Nations again, I always do that. The UK, United Kingdom, has been great at producing intel for many years. There's something they're just great at. And Russia's ability to supply numbers. Because we provided the equipment, the United Kingdom provided the intel, and of course, then Russia got numbers and supplied soldiers. That's the 3 key reasons why World War III was won against Germany.
But this is a major cyber attack. Like, this is a huge win for whichever party carried this out and actually pulled this off. This took down Aeroflot, which is literally Russia's national airline, which is massive in Russia. So this is a big one. But let's take a look at the video here at the airports and show you the chaos that's ensuing as a result of this major hack.
Ooh, boy.
I mean, look at that. That airport is absolutely packed right there. People packed on the escalators, packed everywhere. Look, there's people like literally sleeping on the elevators. That's crazy right there. And this is the airports pretty much everywhere around Russia right now because of that major hack that we saw there.
Oh, it was more than just a hack. I mean, what was it, a week ago? That the drones hit within Moscow and forced the shutdown of almost 150 flights, delays, and other things. So they're really putting the squeeze down on Russia. Ukraine is just trying to get them to back off. Because at this point, it's just about how long it would take Russia to conquer Ukraine. And like I said, there's a report out about that, released by the Pentagon. And it states it would take, at the rate they're going, it would take them 45 years. 1.7 million loss of soldiers, casualties total. And casualties don't mean death, just those that were injured and unable to return. And then over 700 tons of lost equipment. That's where the numbers are going to go. It would take them 45 years. And numbers, they don't lie.
On Aeroflot. So a big loss for the Russians and something they really are going to have a hard time recovering from. And moving on to our next post here, this one goes to Military News Ukraine, and we're getting word that the security experts citing information about the Russian reports on Aeroflot's hacking, we've seen here that apparently it will take 6 months to restore the Russian airline Aeroflot after a large-scale hacker attack, and that is 6 months right now. The losses for the company are unreal as a result of this hack, and 6 months of downtime. I'm not sure how Aeroflot's really going to handle this. They might find a workaround, or they might not be able to find a workaround. Right now, it's not very clear, but that is a humongous issue for one of the largest airlines in Russia. So like I said, it's a horrific day for Russia today. It's really, honestly, one of their worst days they've had in a long time. But moving into our next post here, this one goes to Secretary Marco Rubio, and it's time to move on to our Thailand-Cambodia news for a second, because right now we're getting some big developments out of that conflict as well, because we're hearing from the Secretary of State Marco that the United States applauds a ceasefire declaration between Cambodia and Thailand that was announced today in Kuala Lumpur, and Marco says he remains committed to ending the conflict along with POTUS. So we are hearing apparently an immediate ceasefire has been agreed to by both sides, but this is not exactly as good as it looks, because we're about to learn in our next post here that things are not on the up and up when it comes to the reality of the situation, even though a ceasefire has technically been agreed to, at least according to the United States. So moving into our next post here, this one goes to Max25, and we can see right here a statement from the United States President announcing the ceasefire and also explaining exactly what this is going to mean. So let's take a look. And the president says, "I just spoke to the acting prime minister of Thailand and the prime minister of Cambodia, and I'm pleased to announce that after the involvement of," and he also mentions his own name, his own post, which is kind of strange, but he said, "Both countries have reached a ceasefire and peace between Thailand and Cambodia, and congratulations to all, and by ending this war, we have saved thousands of lives, and I've instructed my trade team to restart negotiations on trade, and I have now ended many wars in just 6 months. I am proud to be the president of peace."
Okay, Trump. Okay. Pat yourself on the back, but clearly not. You've taken an active stance on trying to prevent conflict. There's one thing Trump has stayed active with. He doesn't like war. And he's stated it numerous times. He's made his position very clear on this. President Trump does not like people dying in war. News outlets that have interviews with him always try to catch him in a question, say, "Who would you support?" He says, no, it's not about who I support. It's about people not dying. That's what he wants to stop.
folks. So now the war's not really ended just yet. I want to make that clear. There's still fighting going on. I'm about to get into that in just a second to show you the news on that front. So he's really putting all of his eggs in one basket here. Hopefully he turns out to be right, or otherwise we're really going to look kind of a little bit silly announcing that too early. But that is the post from the U.S. president. But moving on to our next post here, this one goes to Fintech's News, and we've also heard that apparently there's just about 2 hours left before the midnight ceasefire between Cambodia and Thailand actually takes effect. So we do have a little bit of runway left to see here exactly if the fighting is going to ramp down or ramp up and see exactly where this is going to go. But we're already seeing right now that there's some bad indications this might not be actually taking effect the way we hope it will be. And moving into our next post here, this one goes to Conflict Radar, as we've heard that heavy artillery exchanges between Thailand and Cambodia continue in the Prasat Takwai direction with less than an hour until the ceasefire actually begins. So this was posted about an hour ago. So technically right now, I believe the ceasefire should be in effect. And that was posted about an hour ago. So right now, by the time this video is published, the ceasefire should be in effect. So we should see if this thing's going to hold up or not by the time this video is out. So that will be interesting to see. But moving on to our next post here, this one also goes to Conflict Radar. And we also saw a Thai F-16 attacking a Cambodian military base as well, right here on camera. So let's take a look at the footage and see the F-16 launching an aerial attack on Cambodia. Alright, so right here you can see this is the Cambodian side, and in just a second you're about to see a very large explosion right there in front of the camera. And there it goes. It just hit some building right out here in the distance on the Cambodian side, and that was a Thai F-16 that carried us out. Sadly, I do not have a geolocation on the building, so I can't tell.
I'm not going to lie, when they mention Thailand, all I think about is that they're sending ladyboys to war. I'm sorry. I know that's just not right, but it just seems like it.
Tell you what that was, but clearly it must have been strategic for the Thai to actually hit it with an F-16 aerial bombardment. So there you see it right there on camera. So clearly some heavy fighting going on right before the ceasefire goes into effect. But moving into our last post here, this one goes to World Source News 24/7, and we've also gotten some big news about the Iranians because they are apparently acting up very badly in the background, and we're just now getting word about it because we are hearing from the U.S. president that Iran has been sending out nasty signals in the background, and if Iran starts nuclear again, we'll wipe it out fast, meaning the U.S. is going to go in and strike Iran again. So this right here is a bad sign that the U.S.
Iran has got to be the one country more trolled than any other country right now, even more so than Russia. And I say this because they launched 300 missiles at Israel. They blew up 99% of the total missiles. A few got through but were empty and didn't hit anything. And Israel struck back with dummy ammunition that didn't explode or anything. And they flexed on Iran, like your so-called Iron Dome or whatever it's called is nothing, because they fired dummy rounds that all majority got through. And then Iran proceeds to strike again, gets missiles blown out of the sky again. And every single time someone does something to Iran always states the same: we will strike back at you with retaliation and mighty force. And it's like, dude, you've got to be the least threatening country out of everyone. Like, if there is a country that flexes more than any other country, it is Iran. Iran flexes. Like, they pump their chest out every single time. They're basically like that. There's a video on YouTube with this little hamster, wild hamster, that puts up this big front but looks so damn cute. And it's just funny to see it, like this predator that looks like it's the size of a mountain to it, and they're looking at it like, and it's just standing on all fours, arms and legs splayed out, and it's flexing itself, trying to make itself look bigger than it actually is. That's Iran.
US might have to go back into Iran very soon with the B-2 bombers and strike the Iranian nuclear program yet again, and I guess this time, instead of calling it the Midnight
B-2 bombers, the buff is forever.
Hammer, we'll call it the Daytime Slammer. So this time we might be hitting them again, and we might be hitting them again very, very soon by the sounds of the nasty signals. And we're not really told what nasty signals means, but we can only assume that probably means that Iran is threatening to restart their nuclear program. So not a good sign. But with that, folks, that is...
Let's be clear. If Iran develops nuclear weapons, they would give them to terrorist groups who would then use them. If they could be portable, they would. There's no question.
It's actually our last post of the video, so before you leave, make sure you smack the like button and also subscribe to the channel as well if you already haven't for more Daily War updates just like this one. And also, if you watched the video to this point, go down to the comments below and type LSA to let us know you watched the video to this point. And of course, we appreciate all the kind comments as always in that comment section, and we do read them all the time. And also, I try to heart as many as I can to let y'all know I'm reading them. And also, by the way, if you want to support the channel financially, you can go down to our Patreon page, and the link is in the description below for Patreon, where you can go over there and sign up for a monthly membership, and it can be as little as $5 a month. Any amount helps the channel tremendously, and we appreciate every single one of our Patreon supporters very much. But of course, be sure to join us again tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern for the...
He's got to fix the resolution in his edits, because every time I watch his videos, part of the screen always goes off to the left, and you can't see all the details that are written there.
Rest of the news throughout today and tomorrow on the stream tomorrow night, and we will of course be there to cover it all at that time. But once again, thank you all for watching, and bye bye for now.
All right, that was the Enforcer. Breaking: Lithuania declares emergency over Russian incursion. U.S. threatens Putin. Enforcer news.
Hey there everyone, if you enjoy this content, like and subscribe and comment down below. Thanks again.